creativity, having the drive to kill or to steal and so forth. So to appreciate what we have in this lifetime and to know, well, life could end at any time. So to reflect upon our own death is seen as extremely important from a Buddhist point of view. Buddhist practitioners do this every day, if they remember. If they do their practice extensively, then on a daily basis, you remember that this may be your last day. You may die anytime. That death is certain. That anyone who has been, however famous, I mean, even a Buddha, even someone as highly realized as Shakyamuni Buddha, as the great beings of this world, many emperors, many rulers and so forth, poets, scientists, there's a certain time that they're alive and then they're gone. And in about 100 years from now, they'll all be gone. Pretty much. Let me look around. Is there anyone that may be still around? Maybe not. Unless you break the Guinness Book record of like long life. So anyway, there's nothing we can do. We're all going to die one day. There's nothing we can do to extend our life because when our time has come, it's going to, it's going to happen. Nothing to do about it. Plus, right now we're moving towards our own death. Every day we're moving closer and closer. There's nothing that can stop it. Whatever money we have, whatever fame and power we may have, however many good friends, however lovely and supporting our family is, they will not stop us from dying. And we'll have to leave behind everything we worked for so hard. We worked so hard to have certain possessions, possibly a house, a car, family, friends, a reputation, all that. Nothing of that we can take with us. And the only thing we take with us is our mind, is our consciousness. And depending on what we've done in this life, well, maybe there are a lot of positive residues which potentially lead us to more happiness, or we've accumulated a lot of negative actions which potentially lead us to a lot of suffering. So therefore, since all we can take with us is our mind, even our body, which we cherish so much, we looked after so much. I mean, how much money did we spend for our body? Right? I mean, the kind of soaps we buy, the creams, the exercise, the courses we do, what else? The barbers we go to, the hairdressers. How much money we spend on this money? I guess that'd be interesting calculation at the time of death. Here's a list of what you spend on your body, and now you need to leave it behind. Anyway, so all that, even our body, we have to leave behind. And then the only thing that is really important is what we've done with our mind, because that's the only thing we take with us. So if we accumulated a lot of positive actions, we've done a lot of helpful actions, beneficial actions, we worked for the benefit of others, we sincerely gave, we were generous, engaged in ethical behavior and so forth, okay. But let's just ask ourselves, how much time in a day? I like it when this homeless the Dalai Lama, sometimes during teachings, he does the math. He says, how many hours in your life you spend sleeping? Right? It's kind of easy. Every night, 7 to 8 hours, all right? Then if you live a life of 80 years, anyone who can do this spontaneously, you're welcome to share with us how many hours we probably share. And then how many hours do we spend in the bathroom, on the toilet, taking a shower, taking care of our bodily needs on a daily basis. How many hours do we spend eating? Okay, eating, sleeping, on the toilet. And how many hours do we spend, driving back and forth to work, working? How many hours do we spend socializing? How many hours do we spend watching TV? I heard in the US it's like 8 hours every day. I don't even know how that's possible. How can you get 8 hours of such a busy day? But anyway, somehow we managed the little time we have to spend it in front of the TV. So how many hours do we really spend to look into our mind and check what's going on? What am I thinking? What are my thoughts? What are my actions? How many hours every day do we reflect on this? So if our actions have consequences, whoa, I don't know, but there's really not that much time. So basically, therefore, if the only thing that really matters when we die is what we've done mentally, well, I guess it's a good reason to start right away to take care of our mind, to make sure we don't accumulate as much negativity as we may do. Okay. So that's basically the idea of death, that death can come anytime and so forth. So this is something, if you find this powerful, if you find that effective, to do this on a daily basis. It doesn't take long, just to go through some of the reasons that are given in this book. For example, it's got a very extensive chapter on death, to reflect on that and see whether it's true or not. Okay? And as I said, like from a Buddhist point of view, whatever action we accumulate does not get lost. I think even scientists would agree that whatever movement you make with your body, it doesn't get lost. It affects everything else around you. If you think of the particles, if you think of the atoms, whatever else surrounds us, when we move our hands, well, whatever is surrounding us is also moved, and that in turn moves something else, and something else, and something else. So therefore, the idea of the butterfly effect, for example, I'm sure you've heard of the butterfly effect, that the movement of a butterfly can cause a hurricane somewhere else in the world. However that works, I don't know. But the point is, like, actions that we accumulate, they don't just get lost. They don't just get lost. So whatever physical movements we make, whatever mental, even when we have a thought, there's a type of energy created, because our consciousness does not exist on its own, just like floating in sky. No, but there's an energy. The Tibetans talk about a subtle wind. I think an easier word to understand in English would be an energy that is created. Every time there's a thought, along with that thought, a type of energy, a subtle energy is created. And then that energy does not get lost. Again, it affects other people around us. And the idea of karma then is that whatever energy, however positive it is, depending on its constructiveness, depending on our motivation, then therefore it'll have a result. So really think that every action you accumulate will have a result in the future. Well, unless if it's a positive action, it can be destroyed by anger. And if it's a negative action, it can be purified. That is possible. But other than that, unless we do any of that, unless we purify, unless we destroy an action, we will inevitably experience the result. In fact, everything we experience right now is the result of actions we accumulated in the past. Now, we had our whole discussion yesterday about the past. What does that mean? I won't go into this again today. I can't, because we spent a lot of time on past and future lives, but at least to leave the possibility open that no one has ever proven that there is no past life. From a Buddhist point of view, there are accounts of people who've spoken about it. There's a lot of reasoning that points in the direction of consciousness continuing, just in different forms. That in the same way as our consciousness continues when we go to sleep every night and we wake up in the morning, in the same way, well, falling asleep and waking up is very similar to dying. Actually, the mental process is very similar. And every morning we wake up with a slightly different body, and every morning the things of the past are gone and new things arise. So death is just like that. It's like falling asleep, except the body may look very different. I mean, maybe I have a frog body in my next life, so it looks very different to my body right now. Who knows? But the point is that consciousness continues. And if it really does, and taking that as a possibility, if it really does continue, well, then the actions we've accumulated in the past, the actions from the previous life, we experience the results of that. So what do we want to experience? What do we want to experience? It's in our own hand. If we want to experience happiness and so forth, well, we need to make an effort now. If we want to suffer, well, that's also possible. We've been quite good at that in the past, so we have great habits when it comes to, like as Honda says, being selfish unwisely. This is the bizarre thing. We really want to be happy. We want to be so happy. Everyone wants to be happy. And like I said, all of us deserve to be happy. and then we do exactly what is bad for us. It's bizarre, right? It's like we have such a strong habit of getting angry or getting, we want something, and instead of being skillful about getting what we want, as Holmes talks about it, he describes it as being selfish wisely. Being wisely selfish, right? Instead of doing that, we do exactly the opposite of what's good for us. Anyway, so the idea is that we can create our own future. We are responsible. So I don't know how you feel about it, but I personally feel that it's very empowering. It's like, I can take my own responsibility. I mean, especially in the 21st century, we like to be independent. We like to stand on our own feet. It gives us courage. It gives us a sense of responsibility, which is beautiful. So with karma, the idea of karma, well, it's exactly that idea. It's in my own hands. I want to be happy. Well, I can make I have a choice. I have a choice. So when sometimes people say, he really makes me angry. No one makes us angry. It's not like someone really makes us angry. It feels that way. It feels like this person is responsible for my anger. But actually, I have a choice. I have a choice to say, no, this is not going to help. If I get angry now, it's not going to help the situation. Wait a minute, I'm not going to get angry. We have a choice. Likewise, sometimes we feel so trapped in our past. Oh, my parents, what they did to me, that it's A, B, C, and so forth, and now I suffer from. Okay, that may be true. Of course, we all carry our baggage. I don't think there's like a perfect mother and a perfect father. No one is born to be parents. No one was trained. And even if they were, scientists change their opinion about what is good for your children all the time. So when you start educating a child, it tells you in the magazines, do this, 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 and then 15 years later they tell you it was all wrong. And then your children are really upset because you did it all wrong. Look at the magazine, it says, this is wrong. But it said something different 15 years ago, so I want you to know, right? I mean, I know my mom, she said, when you were little, they told us to do such and such, and now everyone tells us it's wrong. So, I mean, it's difficult. And if you have children, you probably face the same problem. If you have little children, wait 15 years, and then, whoa, it was all wrong. So anyway, we do what we can, our parents do what we can, and again, whatever happened to us in the past, we have a choice to go over it again, and oh my God, this is just, everything has went wrong, and all my problems and so forth, or to say, I make changes, I'm not going to act on it. I'll make a change now. We can do that, right? It just takes that initial thought, I can do something. Like I spoke about it yesterday, the power of the mind. I mean, all you need to do is Google a little bit. All you need to write is power of the mind. And you find examples that are so inspiring of people who had incredible diseases, terrible diseases, and through their own mind, they were able to control the disease, they were able to make it bearable, and even if they were not able to cure themselves, and there are cases of people being able to cure themselves, but even if they weren't, at least they felt mentally so calm about it, they felt so good about it, that in the end, well, it was fine. They were mentally happy, and they were able to bear it. Okay? So, therefore, there are lots of stories of like ordinary people, and then of course then you hear about the Tibetans and some of the Tibetan yogis, and this I've seen with my own eyes, of people who were able to do things that are astonishing. I mean, parts of the stories I've heard about, but I don't think there's any reason for doubting their authenticity. For example, and this is also again something scientists have done these tests on monks who learn to control their body to such a degree that they learn to control their blood circulation. And by doing that, they're able to generate heat in the body, so that when they're in a mountainous area where they don't have a heater, where they don't even have electricity, they're able to keep their bodies warm. And I read about an experiment that some scientists did in the US I forget now which university and which scientist, but again, like I said, you can find this online, about these monks who were put in a room during the experiment. They were put in a very cold room, and then it was 4.5 degree, and they were in their underwear. Okay, so an ordinary person, if you put an ordinary person in a room at 4.5 degree, I believe you experience hypothermia within, I don't know, maybe half an hour, I don't know how long it takes you. So on top of sitting them in these, having them sit in these very cold rooms, they gave them wet sheets, cold, wet sheets that they had to wrap around them. Okay? And now it was like they were asked to start to meditate, to dry the sheets. And they started. They started meditating, they started getting concentrated, and as it says in the report, the sheets started steaming. Steam came out of the sheets because they start drying, like a dryer. If you have it, put them in the dryer, there's steam coming out of the dryer. So likewise, the steam arose, and within, I don't know, half an hour, the sheets were dry, the monks were warm and cozy, and the experiment was successful. So, this you can, of course, maybe they all lied, they all made it up. It's all like a big conspiracy, to fool those Buddhists who believe in us. But seriously, there's no reason to disbelieve that. Those are authentic experiments, and there's a lot of material you can read about it. So if some monk can do that, why can't we do it? Well, I know why we can't do it, because we think we can't do it. We think,
what's special about, I don't know, I do this every night when I go to sleep. My blankets are cold and they warm up because my body's warm. I don't get what's special about this.
Oh, what is special about that? Well, it depends on where you go, right? If you meditate in the mountains of Tibet, for example.
Cold, okay, but my body...
But that's not the main reason. That's not the main reason. No, the main reason is not about creating temperature, because he's right. These days you have down sleeping bags. Might as well just buy one before you meditate for years. It's much easier to get one of those sleeping bags. No, but these are all practices where you start to control the energy in your body. So if you control the energy of your body, since the energy and the mind are very closely linked, if you control one, you control the other. So that's not the main exercise of that. It's not just to produce heat. It's effective when you're up in the mountain, but it's basically also to generate or to bring to the arisal subtler types of mind, subtler types of awarenesses that we usually experience when we sleep, for example. When we die, to generate those states of awareness. Anyway, it's a whole different topic. But what I'm saying is we have not tapped into the power of our own mind. Our consciousness is so powerful, and with the right kind of determination, the first thing we need is determination. So, let's start off with meditating, for example, so we get to know our own mind. Because right now, you remember I gave the example yesterday, our mind is just like the light in a movie projector, okay? And then the film that runs past that light is like, our body, the sense object, the sense powers, if you like, the eye, the ear, the nose, and so forth, which provide the information, the parts of the brain that provide the information of our environment. So they're like this film. So these things appear to the mind, they appear to us, sounds, shapes, colors, and so forth, in a way in which they don't exist out there, actually, right? As scientists have found, there are no colors out there, sound is not really what it seems to be, etc. So all this is like the film in front of us, the film that runs past or when you have a slide projector, right? There's the light, and it shines through a slide. And the slide is just a negative, if you like, and there's a picture thrown on the screen on the other side. Right? So basically our consciousness is just that awareness. Actually, interestingly, a lot of times consciousness is explained in the nature of light. So we talk about a clear light mind. We talk about the mind being clear and knowing, or luminous and knowing. So this luminosity of experiencing, of perception, it has that sense of like lighting up things, of knowing things, of being aware, being conscious. So It's almost like you shine a light in a room and things start becoming clear. So that's our consciousness. That is that awareness that's always there. But it is influenced by the external, what we perceive, and with certain thoughts that we create, certain thoughts we have, tendencies are left on the consciousness, which are also part of the film. Okay? So sometimes there are violent scenes. The negative or the film that runs through can be very violent. There can be attachment, jealousy, and so forth. And then the movie that's played on the screen, right? We totally get immersed in that. Instead of understanding, it's the tendencies, it's the conscious part of our conscious aggregate, if you like, the part of us that is conscious, and then the different tendencies, the different sense inputs and so forth. They create this seeming objective reality that's kind of like the movie that's played out there. And we get totally immersed in it. We don't believe this comes from us. This is something internally. It's like a movie playing inside of us. And with everyone having their unique movies, they're similar movies, but not the same. They're never the same. Your movie is different than my movie. Even right now, I'm the one talking, so you're the one listening. But what you see and what I see is very different. I hear the sound of my own voice, which sounds very different to what you hear. Yeah, so when you go on it, if you go to on a detailed level, we all have our individual movie. What we believe, we watch the same movie. In fact, everyone just watches a movie. It's got nothing to do with our mind. My mind is a movie projector, like white light. And no. There is some movie just taking place. There's some reality out there, and that's real. Right? But we're forming the movie. We are making the movie. We are movie directors. We're making all these frames for the future. We're creating them. So that, from a Buddhist point of view, is called karma. Karma is an idea, it's a law. It's a natural law. So you have the law of gravity, you have the law of motions, you have the law of this, that, and the other, and you have the law of karma. So in Buddhism you speak about, or not just in Buddhism, in science too. That's what I said yesterday, that science and Buddhism is coming closer and closer. Just the other day I watched a documentary which is called Pill and Perception. Wow. It's about exactly that, the power of the mind. Don't take all this pharmaceutical stuff, you know? Not saying don't take anything at all, but it's warning against taking Prozac and taking, you know, a lot of these medications, especially in excess, because the chemicals affect our body, and actually our mind can do so much. We just need to learn how to control our mind. I mean, if I tell you about this movie, it's not the same. You have to watch it. This documentary is very interesting about what the mind can do, how it can actually heal itself in so many ways, and they give examples of that, and it's very inspiring. Anyway, so what I'm trying to say is that the law of karma is a law of cause and effect. As science talks about, law of cause and effect. You create the causes for something, you get the effect. Okay? This is true for farmers. I mean, any farmer would know about that, cause and effect. Then in everyday life, I mean, we're very aware of cause and effect. The moment you cook a soup, you're aware of the law of cause and effect. You know, I put together certain causes, certain ingredients, well, I'm going to get a certain soup. Yeah, and depending on the heat, depending on the length of time and so forth, you get a certain result. Well, if you look around, everything is based on the law of cause and effect. Everything. You know, whatever causes and conditions you create, the result you get. Our educational system is based on that. Right? Depending on the teachers, depending on the material we study, depending on how much effort we put into it, depending on how intelligent we are, etc., we get a certain result. So we believe in that. We believe in that. We believe that when we make food, their cause leads to a result. We believe that on a molecular level, you have certain atoms come together. If they come together, you have a certain result. We believe this in the educational system. I mean, give me any ordinary example, everyday example, where the law of cause and effect doesn't apply. You can't find it, right? Physically, mentally. I'm talking about education mentally, I'm talking about physical farming and cooking and cleaning, I mean, the law of cause and effect works very well when you clean your house, right? So why would it not work when we engage in actions? I mean, even on a more superficial level, yes, if I go up and hit someone, I don't think they're going to take me out for dinner. So, it's kind of even on that basis, right away, there is a reaction. But sometimes the result is not experienced right away. As we can see, you may drink water from the wrong source and you feel fine for a month, for a year, for 2 years, and then, some change. You weren't aware that already there was some change. You're not aware, it's too subtle. But sometimes the result of an action is right actually only later. So how can it be that from the time that when I accumulated the action, then until like a year or 5 years later, how come there's a connection? I mean, it's like I've changed in the meantime and the action is completed and still I experience the result of that. Well, because there was some residue left. And that residue is there and it's working. And it's working towards the experience of that result. Right? It makes sense on a medicinal level, for example, how certain diseases, we create the cause now, we experience the result in 70 years. Right? I mean, try fast food for a few years and then you may not feel the result right away, but then later on you may. Okay. So, karma is similar. So we accumulate certain actions, and as I said, every time there's even the thought, we think something, there's an energy created, and some people can pick up on it, right? Some people have this perception, which is a little subtler. They can perceive when a person is quite angry or when a person is loving. They're around this person and they feel it. Sometimes we feel it too, but we believe that, nah, I'm just making it up, right? But this is what we call intuition. We sometimes pick up on a person's energy. And the more loving a person is, the different the energy. I mean, the energy that is associated with a loving person is different from the energy of a person someone who's very hateful and aggressive. I think we would all agree on that. So there's something created every time we think something. There's something created, and motivated by love or motivated by anger. Then the actions, the things we say, they're different. When we say something motivated by anger, say the same thing motivated by sincere love, right? We may not notice it right away when someone speaks, but like I said yesterday, as Bob Marley said, here I'm quoting Bob Marley, we can fool some people sometimes, but we can't fool all the people all the time. Is that Bob Marley? I'm not sure. Yeah. But it is, right? Okay. So, basically, sometimes we can be fooled by a person. We don't know what their real intention is. But when we're around long enough, and when we check with other people, in the end, we know, there's something a little fishy about that person. It's hard to, for it not to come through. So the point is here that actions that are guided by a positive motivation, well, the words that are spoken, they themselves are also constructive. Whereas with a negative motivation, they're harmful. And do they get lost? No. How can they get lost? It doesn't get lost when I put in a rotten egg in my cake. It's like we can hope for it to get lost. Oh, I made this beautiful cake. All the ingredients were great, except I had one rotten egg. Oh, let's hope it'll just go away, right? It won't. You'll definitely taste it. Okay? I mean, those of you who cook, like if you put in the wrong stuff, like old olive oil in hummus, whoa. Right? The whole thing. So, the point is, just as in everyday life, if we use ingredients that are tainted, that are not, that are harmful, if you like, well, the result will be tainted. Why should that be different with our own actions? Why should that not have any consequence? Why should our actions be, today I get angry and I secretly did something really nasty. They didn't know, so I'm okay. Okay? I mean, we do things, we do them secretly, we keep it secret oftentimes, the negativities, and things they may get lost, but they don't get lost. How could they? How could that be the case with cakes and education and farming and so forth? There's always a consequence. I mean, think about the fact that you put a poison in a river. Do you think the poison is just going to disappear? Or is it going to go somewhere else and spread and so forth? I mean, nowadays we know that this whole world is affected by the actions of people in a certain place, right? So likewise, our actions affect us and they eventually come back because everything is interconnected. That's the idea of karma. So just because we don't experience the result right away, we may not believe in karma. But first of all, when we engage in a negative action, we don't really feel good. I don't think it's like this feeling of blissfulness. If you help others, you sincerely, with unconditional love, you work for this benefit of another person. That feeling of peace and calm, as opposed to cheating someone really effectively, I don't